on the city's website in case people are not able to make it to the meeting here tonight. So we got a thumbs up on the audio?
Flip it on the box.
Oh, I did flip it on. I thought I did. It's got a green light.
Oh, there we can hear you. Is that good?
Is it working? Check 1, 2. I always wanted to do that. All right, he's got me. All right. I'll try to do the best I can here. So, my name is Morgan Dolly. I am North St. Paul's city engineer, and thank you very much for taking some time out of your evenings for this informational meeting. Really, we're hoping that this is going to be some education for you all. Happy to answer some questions. If you could hold them to the very end, I'm just going to run through a very short presentation with just some broad general information for all of you about this effort, what the city is trying to accomplish, what we're hoping to get from all of you and the residents of North St. Paul and some residents of Maplewood who are on the North St. Paul water system. Kind of a collaborative effort of really what is just data collection at this point, and talk a little bit about what we hope to achieve at the end of this. And then we'll move into maybe a Q&A at the end there. The reason for that is that we are trying to record this just so we've got a documentation for the folks that were not able to come tonight so they can check this on the city's website. We'll certainly be able to take questions, and there's comment cards for you to all fill out so we can take your written comments, hopefully provide some feedback, answer questions, or get back to you with information that we might not have ready tonight. And so with that, I will move into the presentation. Again, I'm the city engineer. With me here tonight is Noel and Shavi, both from the city's consulting engineering firm, WSB. They're helping with some of the public engagement. We have Ron Ritchie, who's the Director of Public Works. We have Randy Miller, who's the Assistant Director of Public Works. So they are the folks that operate and maintain your drinking water system in North St. Paul. From a city engineer standpoint, I guess I'm a little bit more on the planning and the replacement and design of our infrastructure system. So not just drinking water, but also wastewater, sewer, drainage, stormwater. I've been with the city since 2009. When you have dealt with our summer of Minnesota construction season, orange cones, and trying to get around all the projects that we've had off and on through the years, I'm probably the guy that you can blame for that. We try to do the best we can, but we always know that construction is an inconvenience. But as we get into 2024, and with some of the past mandates that have been passed by the federal government in Washington, D.C., through the Environmental Protection Agency, and those kind of pass down, cascade down to the different states, including Minnesota where we live. And in Minnesota, the state agency is the Minnesota Department of Health, so they're in charge of regulating drinking water and drinking water distribution systems. The goal here is to really identify and reduce the number of lead water pipes, lead drinking pipes, just from a public health standpoint. I think maybe, like show of hands, who knows that lead pipes are not ideal or good for passing drinking water through, right? Okay, so that's, we've all been, Ron in Public Works knows that as well too, that's good. I am a child of the 70s, I was born in 1969, I remember seeing the public service ads on TV about, for the kids, don't eat the paint, it could be lead paint, right? Lead is bad, lead's not healthy, not good from a health standpoint. In 1974, I think was the year that the federal government banned the use of lead pipes in drinking water, so that includes, our distribution mains, the water mains that are under the streets, but also the service pipes that go from the main to your home or to your business. So newer homes, newer construction, newer areas of utility expansion or utility reconstruction, including the streets that we've reconstructed in North St. Paul within the last several years. We've had a few reconstruction projects. Those are all using newer pipe materials. We have a table out there with a couple different examples. And for service pipes in more recent times, we've been using copper pipe. And more recently, actually, since about 2016, we've been using plastic pipe or water service pipe to go from the main into the home. For water main pipe, we've been using also plastic pipe, PVC, or HDPE is another type of plastic pipe that is used for water, but also ductile iron as well too. That's been pretty much the standard since about 1970 in North St. Paul. And we even have records of the city putting in services for future homes or existing homes using copper service pipe, not lead, but going back to the 1950s. So certainly the transition away from galvanized or away from lead service pipe has been going on for some time. It's not like every city, including North St. Paul, used lead right up until 1974 when people said you shouldn't be using it anymore, right? People have been switching away from lead pipe for several years. Now, bringing us into like the modern time frame of 2024, as the EPA has been mandating, hey, we need to find and try to remove where we can find some of these older pipes. What we realize is that the amount of record keeping or the type of record keeping or the quality of the record keeping in terms of what has been put under the roads since World War II or before World War II, even with the expansion of our water drinking system, but also the pipes that have been installed by plumbers when homes were put in or homes were built or homes have been renovated. Those records aren't that great, right? And so that is where we're at today, is trying to improve our understanding of what types of pipes are used for drinking water, both in the street and both in your homes. And it's going to take a little bit of collaboration and partnership, and that's one of the things that I hope to share with you and help you understand what we're getting at. Whoops. Okay, so I covered a lot of that background. It's a mandate from the federal government, and just to put things into context, so I mentioned I've been the city engineer since 2009. All of the more recent, I guess, reconstruction projects that you may have seen around town, including downtown here, but also in some of the residential areas I have been a part of. And in that time frame with all those projects, and I don't know the exact number, but I would imagine that we've replaced water services to well into the hundreds of homes. In my experience, we've come across two homes. Of all of those homes, two homes that had lead service pipes. So it's not very common. Over and above my experience, Public Works, what they've come across with their regular maintenance operations, replacing water main breaks, that sort of thing. I don't know the exact number, maybe another 2 or 3, right? It's a very low number. And that goes back to even before I was the city engineer. So, last 15 years, maybe a little bit longer than 15, 20 years, something like that, we've only come across a handful. So it's not like lead service lines are all over the place in terms of what we're seeing. But again, those are just the areas that we've dug up. We know that there's several other homes and several other pipes, and so that's where this investigation effort comes into play. So, the collaboration that I mentioned, or the partnership, is where we potentially could use your help. And we're asking all of our water customers, so not just North St. Paul residents, but also Maplewood residents. We got permission with the city of Maplewood to communicate with those folks as well too. And we would like your help to help identify and log and mark down what the material of the pipe is in your home. And we've got some tools and online information that should make that easy. There's and we're showing a picture of a phone here on the screen because it should be a mobile-friendly app, and you can get to that by way of the QR codes, and you'll see some information in the presentation, and also with what we have here. I think we also did a mailing as well too, right? So everybody should have gotten the opportunity to connect to this information virtually using their mobile device or potentially home computer. And what we're asking, and this is not a hard requirement, but we're asking to hopefully collect as much information with the partnership of the community by June 7th. If it happens to be June 8th, that's okay, but we just wanted to try to incentivize the folks that were willing to help and be able to go into their homes information and the tools that we're giving you here, so that we can potentially flesh out our records by June 7th. So what are the steps involved in this? So obviously, number one is to find your water service line in the home. How many people, and it's okay if you don't, but how many people know or they think they know where their water meter is in their home? Is it most folks? Yeah, it's relatively easy to find. It's usually something once the city or a plumber installing that when your home is built or being renovated. It's not something that really needs to be worked on until it needs replacing. Usually a water meter lasts, I don't know, 15 years approximately, yeah. And so, I think we replaced all the water meters in town a while ago. Some of them are getting replaced now as they kind of come of age. But usually in between those periods when the water meter needs to be replaced, just because it's old, unless it fails, it's not something that you really spend a lot of time looking at or checking, or, the city reads it remotely by, radio signal, and so you really don't need to look at it, or the city doesn't need to look at it once it's put in there. But if you know where it is, and there is actually a sample water meter sitting on the table out there, if you didn't already see it, and you're wondering what one looks like, if you're not sure, you can check that out. At that location, and from the water meter down into the ground or down into the wall, which is where the pipe goes out actually into the street at some point to connect to our water main, that's the piece of pipe that we're hoping to get some assistance from all of you to identify what is it made of. Sometimes you can identify just by looking at it, well, that's plastic, right, versus some other kind of metal. And there's some samples of these different types of pipe. And I think we have some pictures here too. But there's some methods to be able to determine if it's metal, by scratching it, and I'll talk about a little bit after this, and also magnets, if you happen to have a magnet laying around, sometimes that can help you as well too, try to determine what kind of pipe it is. So, whether it's plastic, lead, not lead, we're just looking for any information that you can determine, and potentially a picture as well too, especially if you're using your phone to submit this information. It's pretty easy to snap a picture and you can send that to us as well, so we can use that as part of our documentation. So, from a scratch test how-to standpoint, if you do have a refrigerator magnet, or a key, or a coin, or the flat edge of a screwdriver, all of those things can work to your advantage in doing this. If you scratch the pipe where it comes into the building, in between the floor and the water meter, or the wall and the water meter, as I said, if you know where your water meter is, you do a little scratch test on it. At that scratch, if it's a copper pipe, even if the outside of that copper pipe is somewhat old and oxidized and it looks dark or gray or brown, it should start to look shiny, like a brand new penny if you scratch on it a little bit, right? So that's going to identify for you that your pipe is copper. Very common, like I said, we were seeing copper pipe being put in city projects back in 1952, I think was the earliest year we could find it. So copper pipe has been used for a long, long time. I wouldn't be surprised if that's what you find. You can actually fill out the form and tell us that you've got a copper pipe. You can snap a picture of your little scratch thing showing that it looks like a penny. That would be very helpful. If that scratch shows that it's actually silver or gray and it doesn't look like a shiny penny color, then you can take like a refrigerator magnet or something like that. And if the magnet sticks to that pipe, to the gray pipe, that's an indicator that it is galvanized. Galvanized steel, actually. We just shorten it by saying galvanized. But it's galvanized steel is also a very common pipe type. And if it doesn't stick to it, then the last choice is that it could potentially be lead. And you want to report that as well, too. So lead is not magnetic, so a refrigerator magnet would not stick to it. Galvanized steel is magnetic, and your refrigerator magnet would stick to the side. So here's some pictures. I think that almost all plastic water service pipe that I have seen, so that when I say water service, that's a pipe that comes up and into the home. I believe it's blue colored. Have we ever seen another color pipe besides blue? here's a copper pipe that's brand new, obviously, but when it's been in the home for decades and decades, it's certainly not gonna look shiny like this, and that's why we were just talking about scratching some of that outside surface to try to get at what the scratch might look like. And again, it's that kind of shiny penny color. Galvanized is a picture of it when it's brand new. You can see from some of the samples that are out on the table of older galvanized that it can actually look rusty or dark in color, so it's not, this is brand new galvanized, which looks relatively shiny, but again, this is the one that is magnetic. So if you take a magnet, stick it to galvanized, that's gonna actually stick tight. And lead tends to sometimes have these bulbous, I don't know what they call those things, they look kind of like bubbles on the end, and it's usually, it looks almost like it's been squished with Play-Doh. It's not a very consistent, circular type of pipe. The reason why they used it way back in the day, before they realized it was not great for drinking water, is because it was very malleable. And so plumbers could kind of move it around and move it into place just with their hands. They didn't even really need heavy tools to be able to do that. So that's kind of an example of how there's that kind of bulbous end and it comes into a faucet or a spigot or a valve within the home. So, let's say you go through all of that, what do you do? How do you report this? So if you do have a galvanized or a lead service line, we're going to use all of this information to try to gather some momentum behind getting some grant dollars, which will be made available to all cities that are finding some galvanized or lead lines to be able to replace those. The goal will be to replace those with minimal financial impact to the residents and for the city, right? So we want to leverage all of those outside dollars to help everybody out to try to take care of this issue. And what we're being told from the Department of Health is they are going to make those dollars available, whether they're coming from the federal government, which they're starting to pass on through right now, or from the state. There's a combination of dollars available there. And so what we would want to try to do is put together replacement projects that will assist those folks that have found lead or galvanized lines, that we can get those replaced for you. Very likely organized by the city. So the city, in theory, would hire a contractor. Contractor would come out, take care of this work for you. There might be some inconvenience or some disruption. Your water might be off for a period of time. You certainly would need to provide access to your home for this to happen, for a plumber to reconnect the new water line with your water meter, for example. But ultimately, at the end of the effort, you would have a new service line, either from your home out to the curb stop, which is the shut-off valve out in front of your yard, or from the home all the way out to the main. Either way, it would depend on the findings and what you help us out information-wise in terms of what we find. So, as we submit, and we have to submit every year to the Department of Health our findings for how many services do we know might be lead or galvanized, how many are copper. There might be some unknowns. We have to send that information in. As far as what we're being told right now, every year for at least the next 10 years, this is going to be an ongoing effort. And then again, if we can make that case to be able to build these replacement projects to help the folks out that have those findings, then we will assist with those replacement efforts as those funds are made available to the cities. Now, the Department of Health also has a lot of information, and I believe that we included a link to this information in the mailing, and so some of the
So the link in your mailing is to the project website, and on the project website is a link to the Department of Health guidance.
Thank you. So, thank you, Noel. And if just for the video, in case I'll repeat that. So the mailing information that was sent out to everyone does link you to the website that we created for this effort. On the city's website, there's additional information and links to the Department of Health guidance. And that is a lot of helpful information, certainly more detailed and technical than what I'm giving you here, but that can also be accessed with the QR code that we're providing on some of the information at this meeting as well, too. So, next steps, June 7th, That is an arbitrary date. We did just kind of pick it to try to get things moving, to set a goal. If you're going out of town or you got a trip or a vacation and you can't make it happen by June 7th, but you still would like to make sure that you get the information in, you can hand it in a little bit late. We'll still be watching the intake box, so that we'll still be collecting the information. But we did want to put a date out there so that folks knew something, I guess, on the calendar where they could help us out. So if you could get your information in by June 7th, that's step number one. If you have trouble, or you're not sure, or you need assistance, and that includes any aspect of this, if you're not sure where your water meter is, or you're just not, you don't have a refrigerator magnet, it's okay, like, we're here to help. And so you can certainly schedule a free appointment. We can have somebody from our Public Works team come out, and they can do the evaluation and the record keeping for you so that you don't have to. I guess I would also include if you don't have internet access, or, you know, for whatever reason, if you can't conduct it yourself, or you're not positive you'd like some assistance, that's always an option. But we certainly wanted to put it out here because we know that some people are handy, some people really understand what's going on. We might have a few plumbers in the audience or in the city as well too. So they certainly can help us out, and just with something that probably only really takes ultimately maybe 5 or 10 minutes of your time, unless you have to move boxes like in my house to get your water meter, maybe a little bit more time, but it should be relatively simple. Again, we've got a whole web page that is on the city website dedicated to this effort. It is an inventory. That's really what we're trying to do, is just get an inventory of what types of pipes are where within the city, but there will be some replacement efforts, again, funded by the state, funded by the federal government, that we anticipate trying to take advantage of as soon as we can. One individual in the lobby before the presentation had asked when. We can't say for sure, but what I would like to do is that as we collect this first bunch of data and hand that in by the end of this year, maybe we could have our first replacement project as soon as next year. We certainly don't want to start something without understanding that the money is there to protect the interests of the city. The city's capital improvement plan, we don't want to like pass on the free money coming from outside agencies. So we'll try to get at that as soon as possible, and it's certainly realistic in my mind that we'd be able to start as early as next year, given that we'll have our first round of information knowing where we think the galvanized and lead service lines based on all of your investigations, and ours as well, to our record keeping, to be able to put that all together into a plan. So, with that, I'm going to conclude the presentation portion of the meeting for the benefit of the folks online. Hopefully that was informational for you, and definitely use the information on the city's website to be able to either go through the inventory and reporting process on your own, or ask for assistance and ask for questions. We're always here to help. City Public Works and myself are happy to answer your questions. And so we can conclude the video recording portion of the meeting, and I will open it up to just any kind of questions that you all might have with respect to some of the slides that I shared, or we're getting some kind of specific detailed questions as well out in the hallway. I'd be happy to address those. And if I can't answer them, I might rely on our Public Works team as well too. But are there any kind of questions based on what I've told you thus far in terms of what we're trying to accomplish, or what we'd like to try to do, or how you might be able to help? Yes, sir.
Will cement work be done when the basement floor is cut open?
Excellent question. Yes. Typically, what I have seen in these types of projects when a service line is replaced, one of the most successful ways to replace a service line without a significant amount of disturbance in your front yard, whether it's a residential property or commercial property, it doesn't matter. Certainly everybody has established landscaping and trees and things that we'd like to avoid digging up. But it's a construction method of installing pipe called directional drilling. And so there is a way to drill those pipes underground, under your front yard, under your basement and building foundation, and they can steer that. Amazing. It's amazing. I was flabbergasted when I saw it the first time. But they will cut a about a 1 foot by 1 foot hole, maybe a little bit bigger in your basement floor. Sometimes it's tricky if it's a finished basement, but many times, in the vicinity of your water meter, it's still an unfinished portion of, concrete slab, the basement floor. And they can generally come in and like hit that 1 by 1 or approximate size hole, saw cut hole, so it's got, straight edges. Once that new pipe comes in and the plumber is able to disconnect the old pipe, reconnect the new pipe, then there would be some mud work or concrete work to finish that back, to restore that or patch that, right? So that's usually not a significant amount. I've seen those holes as small as 1 foot by 1 foot, so fairly reasonably sized.
And if we have right now a valve that has like a rubber gasket turn type, we want to change it to a ball valve, do we work with the plumber then?
Yes, so that's a level of detail that I can't say for certain whether or not the shut-off valve would be replaced at the same time as this. I think it might actually need to be as a part of code. I think there is a shut-off below the meter, correct?
I'm sure that.
So we'll say 99% sure that would get replaced, is the standard of a ball valve, which is less prone to leaking, right? Yeah, so very likely that would all be taken care of at the same time.
And I have galvanized.
And yeah, okay. Have you reported yet?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Two gentlemen came from the city and they scratched it and it was rusty and
How
they
about
took a
that?
picture.
And they took a picture and submitted it. Well, thank you so much for your assistance and for highlighting the fact that actually using our public works folks to help out, that it's relatively easy, if you're not comfortable doing it yourself. We certainly don't want people to think that then they shouldn't report. You can ask for help, and I appreciate you kind of saying that was relatively easy. Thank you. Any other questions? Yes?
I asked earlier about if, I don't know a whole lot about my townhouse. So they said they had appointments Monday and Friday. What are the time frames? My schedule varies a lot, so just, so I can get in.
What did you guys
I
come up
believe
with?
it's like between 7 and 3.
Okay.
And if you look online, then they'll have the open appointments on there. You just click on it, put your information in there.
And it takes about 20 minutes or so, Lisa?
We have 20-minute slots slotted. It'll take us, 5 to 10 minutes.
Okay. Just double check. Thank you.
Yeah.
And you have to book it 24 hours in advance.
I'm just thinking, since I live in a townhouse, I connect with my neighbors, so somebody can come and do both of them at the same time.
Oh, sure,
Thank you.
yeah, if you're both home at the same time, yeah.
That's why,
Yeah.
that's why I needed a time. Thank you.
Any other questions? Yes, sir?
I have a much older house, and it's my understanding the water shut-off valve located underneath my cement driveway
Mm-hmm.
is one that is so old that you have a special tool in order to fit.
Yes.
I presume that would be replaced at that
It
time.
could be, yeah, if there is a replacement effort, it depends on whether or not the galvanized or lead is on the home side of the shut-off or on the street side of the shut-off. I mean, it could be that the whole thing needs to be replaced, or maybe just one or the other, right? Generally, especially if the curb stop, what we call it a curb stop, but the shut-off valve is inoperable, it's gonna be in the city's interest to replace that at the same time, right?
Or I mean,
So-
it would most likely be replaced just because the valve probably wouldn't work on the new pipe.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, if it were
If the-
galvanized.
right. So if we did replace, on either side, I guess,
Yes,
right? So
yeah.
on either one, yeah, that's right. So the shut-off valve would have to be replaced to be able to make it work with a new pipe. Correct, yeah. Now, and also, under your driveway, you mentioned, it's not a unique case. There's plenty of people with their shut-off valves that are in the driveway, or maybe it might be in the sidewalk in front of your home versus in a grassy green area. And so the goal would be to put back, if you have a concrete driveway, we'd pour new panels there. If you have an asphalt driveway, we would patch the driveway with nice kind of clean lines there. And it would all just depend on where it sits with respect to your driveway, right? So we wouldn't just leave that restoration to you guys. That would be a part of the project as well. Yes, sir.
And if we have galvanized running from the curb stop to the house, does that also mean that it's probably galvanized running from the curb stop to the
No, it's not a probably, it's a could be. We really, what we found is that, the folks when the water system was expanded in North St. Paul, which I think there was a lot of growth post-World War II. So late 40s, 1950s, that's when a lot of the neighborhoods were coming online, that's when a lot of the water main was extended. The city was building not only utilities, but also roads on top of them, and at that time, a lot of these areas and lots did not have homes on them. They were planned for future lots, sometimes the lots were subdivided, sometimes not. But when the water main was put in and the initial services to the shut-off valve and there's no homes there, then the work to take the pipe from the shut-off valve to the home would have been when the home was built. That could have been by a totally different contractor, different plumber, different materials, different budgets, yeah.
This was 1887.
Yeah. Yeah, so, well, in 1887, I don't know how much water we even had in the city of North St. Paul. And so, and that's a good example too. So your home pre-existed utilities. Your lot probably had well and maybe a septic tank to start out with,
House
right?
number 34.
Yeah, there you go. So there's only 33 people in front of you, right? Everybody else behind you. But there really was no rhyme or reason. In fact, the people that had totally reasonable wells and septic systems might have been not the first people to get city water or city sewer, right? I mean, that would have all come later. And it might have been at such time that, you know, in some of the older parts of town where your home is, then maybe they brought water to those streets and either required people to hook up at that time. So because of how records were kept since 1867 until 2024, it could be anything. So I wouldn't say that it's probable, but it could be. And so that's why we and the Department of Health and the EPA are expecting us to go through this effort of identifying for every home or commercial property that is being served by our drinking water, we have to identify two halves to it. So we call it the street side or the home side, and it's really kind of using that shut-off valve as a dividing line between the two.
Is the main in the street up
Yes.
to plastic already?
Oh,
The one
what
running
street are
from
you on?
Second Avenue, East Second Avenue.
Yeah, that's very likely a cast iron, not galvanized steel, it's a different material, but a cast iron main in Second Avenue. For some of these areas, like, Delaware, Chippewa, that was the 2014 project, Longview, 18th Avenue, that was the 2016 project. Homes around Silver Lake and 19th Avenue. And then most recently, we've had some projects on 7th Avenue, kind of both downtown and then going up the hill as well too. All of those projects either received new ductile iron water main and copper water services to the properties, or plastic water main and plastic services. So those are the most recent capital reinvestment efforts by the city. But it's certainly not everywhere. I mean, we've got, I don't know what the exact number is, I want to say over 4,200 or over 4,000 connections, including Maplewood Homes, 4,700, yeah. So, you know, there's been a significant investment on the part of the city council to replace aging infrastructure, whether it's failing underground utilities or failing streets to get to this point. But there's a lot more than what has been done, you know, since 2014 was, I guess, in this modern capital improvement plan. That was the first project. There was a couple few before that. But. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I apologize if you already said this, but so my understanding is there's two phases. One, we're looking at the, right from the curb stop to the home, and then the second phase is gonna be figuring out whatever is going from the water main to the curb stop. Is that, am I understanding that correctly?
Well, we're trying to identify both halves of the equation, if you will, at the same time. We're not gonna know all of it because to truly know, in some instances, we'd have to dig holes in the ground, right? Especially on the street side. But if we can get as much information as we can, we certainly would pursue replacement projects that might include both sides of the equation at the same time, since that certainly would be an opportunity to take care of it all at once.
Because
recommended that you flush the lines, whether it's for air in the lines or other types of things. Sometimes even replacing water meters, we can have sediment and things kind of knock loose, and people can get cloudy water coming out of their taps, but generally flushing it is gonna be the best way to run that clean so that you've got fresh. If you open all your taps in your home, then basically what you're doing is flushing your whole home so that a new set of water should be coming in from what's under the street in the main into your home and then out of the faucets.
It is a documented issue with partial service line replacements, and I think we'll send you some research.
That'd be great. We're just getting into the inventory process, as I said, and so next stage would be replacement, and we certainly want to build these replacement projects in the best and smartest and most cost-efficient way possible. I'd love any information you got. That'd be really helpful. Yeah, thank you. Any other questions?
See, I have a question. So
Yeah.
you mentioned that you are working with Maplewood, I understand. I think some of the people on Division Street have Oakdale water. So.
Correct, and Oakdale would be responsible for their own effort. So every
But
city.
it's North St. Paul Homes.
Correct, and so just like we are contacting Maplewood residents that are on our water, it's very possible, I don't know if Oakdale's reached out to us, I guess we don't know at this point, but we would certainly say that's okay. If there's a North St. Paul resident that's on Oakdale water, they might be part of a similar or slightly different, every city is responsible to go through it their own way. But from what I understand, other cities, there's some similarities. A lot of cities are actually asking residents for assistance and trying to cut down on, I guess, what could be city staff trying to knock on 4,700 doors. That's a lot of effort and would take a long time, and so if we can shorten that. And as I said, this is going to be an ongoing 10-year effort. We know we're not going to figure it all out in year one, and we're not even going to be able to identify where we can pursue, those grant dollars and put them into replacement projects in year one or year two. That's probably going to be an ongoing thing, and the more information we get earlier is going to be able to paint a better, more thorough picture for the people that are able to release those dollars to the city. And so our goal is just to get that information out there as fast and in as thorough a possible way that we can, and hopefully start moving towards replacement efforts hopefully next year. I don't have that crystal ball, but that would be the goal. And I can't speak for Oakdale or other communities. I mean, Maplewood is served by St. Paul Regional Water, and they are already they actually have started a replacement effort. They started their inventory a little bit earlier because I think they're such a big system. But they are in year two, I think, of replacing some services throughout their system, right? And I don't know if any of it is in Maplewood because they serve Maplewood and Mendota Heights and City of St. Paul, several communities, right? So, but each community that has a drinking water system, whether it's regional like St. Paul Regional Water or whether it's local like North St. Paul, they're all going through the same thing as mandated by the federal EPA and the State Department of Health. Any other questions? All right, well, thank you very much. We're going to stick around. We'll answer as many questions as you guys have offline or individually. I know there's some follow-ups with some that I'd like to do with some specific folks that have offered information or might have additional detail. So if you got a question that you're not sure about and you want to talk one-on-one, we'll stay as long as there's folks here. So happy to do that. And I also know, and I didn't get a chance to talk to Public Works, but there's some folks that were interested in water meters on the outside of their home, which I'm not familiar with. So I don't know if you got those questions, but we can maybe talk about that after the meeting with those individuals as well too to help them out. So with that, again, thank you so much for your attention. Thank you for your help and assistance. If you've already assisted, thank you for that. If you're thinking about assisting or helping out by allowing access to your home, we really appreciate that. It's going to help us all in the interest of public health, drinking water quality, things that I'm very passionate about, and the community of North St. Paul at large, really. So appreciate your time and attention. And if you think of something after the fact just hang on to some of the, mailing pieces for reference. Know that we have information on the website, which is probably gonna live on, maybe we tweak it over time, but it's probably gonna be up there for at least 10 years, if not for the foreseeable future, as we kind of move through this journey. And, if anybody wants my contact information, I'll be happy to give you my card. You can text or call anytime. Really appreciate, your help and coming to this as well too. And if you have neighbors, like, condo or twin home or whatever, and you can share, what you learned here and encourage them to reach out or encourage them to help out, that'd be great. And, we're happy to help them as well too. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
I didn't look at this.
That's okay, no worries.
I think I covered them.